Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a question that I think generates massive anxiety for a lot of people. Does chronic stress, the day in, day out kind, actually cause cancer?
It's a huge question, and you hear stories, right? But separating anecdote from science is key.
Exactly. It feels like this universal fear, but it gets confusing. So our mission today is really to cut through that uncertainty, look at the research you brought, and find some scientific clarity.
hmm And the research we're diving into explores these hidden links, the biological pathways connecting chronic unmanaged stress with physical health, specifically how it impacts tumor dynamics.
Tumor dynamics. So I mean how an existing tumor behaves,
Yeah.
grows, spreads, that sort of thing.
Precisely, once it's already there, maybe even tiny and undetected, how does stress affect that?
Okay, that clarity is what we need. Because the simple story, stress gives you cancer, it just feels too simple. Right.
It's too simple.
So what's the essential distinction we need to get straight right from the start?
The key distinction, based on the evidence, is this. Stress doesn't seem to initiate the cancer. It doesn't flip that first genetic switch in a healthy cell, typically.
Okay, so it's not the starting point.
Right. And this is the crucial, but its chronic presence is really detrimental. It basically creates this perfect storm inside the body, an environment where existing disease, which might be dormant, can suddenly wake up and will thrive.
Okay, let's unpack that. That's a really important difference. If stress isn't the spark, what is it doing inside us? We're talking chronic stress here, right? Not just a bad day.
Definitely chronic, weeks, months, years of it. Think of it less like a spark and more like an accelerator, or maybe fertilizer for a weed that's already sprouted.
Accelerator, like that.
Yeah, it's this constant pressure, this drip, drip, drip that makes the body shift its priorities. It moves away from, essential maintenance and defense.
Okay.
And synthesizing the research, we see sort of three main findings. Three pillars of harm, if you like, that show how chronic stress really impacts health.
Okay, lay them out for us. Why do these matter for preventing disease, or at least managing it?
Okay, first pillar. Chronic stress systematically weakens the immune system. This is your body's security force, right? It's meant to spot and eliminate rogue cells before they become a problem.
And if that force is run down?
Its effectiveness just drops, things get missed, errors aren't caught early. That's pillar one.
Okay, so less effective surveillance. What's the second pillar?
Second, it promotes chronic inflammation. Now, a little inflammation is good, it helps healing, but chronic inflammation, that's like a low-grade fire smoldering throughout your body.
And cancer likes that.
Cancer cells thrive in it. Inflammation actually provides them with growth factors, resources. It basically sets the table for them, creates this nutrient-rich, pro-survival zone.
Wow, so inflammation is actually feeding the problem. That's
Yeah.
powerful. And the third pillar?
The third pillar ties back to those tumor dynamics we mentioned. Chronic stress can actively accelerate the growth and potential spread of existing tumors. It shifts the body's internal balance towards letting things grow rather than keeping them contained.
That is, yeah, that's quite sobering. But important to know. So if stress isn't the burglar breaking in,
Right.
it's more like the accomplice who disables the alarms and leaves the doors unlocked.
That's a great analogy, actually. Yeah. It means a chronically stressed person with, say, a tiny, maybe undetected growth could be at a much higher risk than someone without that stress, even with the same initial growth.
Because their internal environment is just compromised.
Exactly. The body becomes less effective at catching and dealing with problems that might have already been there, just simmering below the surface. Stress doesn't cause the accident, perhaps, but it definitely makes the consequences much, much worse. It takes out the safety features.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating for me. Let's go deeper than those high-level effects. What are the specific biological levers chronic stress is pulling? When stress goes on and on, that constant hormonal flood must change how our cells fundamentally operate, right?
Oh, absolutely. It changes them fundamentally. Long-term stress seriously disrupts hormone balance. We're talking primarily about the continuous presence of high levels of cortisol and adrenaline.
The fight or flight hormones, essential for short bursts, but
But running on them constantly, it's incredibly destructive. Cortisol, as many know, is famous for suppressing the immune system. That directly links to that weaker surveillance we talked about.
right. And adrenaline, what's its long-term downside?
Well, chronically high adrenaline fosters what scientists call a pro-angiogenic environment.
Angiogenesis.
And
That's blood vessel growth.
exactly. It encourages the building of new blood vessels. And if
Yeah.
there's a tumor trying to grow, adrenaline basically helps it build its own supply lines for oxygen and nutrients. You're literally helping to pipe resources directly to the problem area.
Wow. So high stress is both knocking out the guards and delivering supplies to the enemy. But you mentioned something even deeper before, about the blueprint itself, DNA.
Precisely. This is where it gets quite profound. Chronic stress impacts DNA repair mechanisms. Think of your DNA as this enormous instruction manual for your body.
Okay.
And the DNA repair mechanism is like the tireless proofreader, constantly scanning for typos, mutations, and fixing them on the spot.
Wait, so chronic stress doesn't just make you feel worn out and maybe catch more colds?
Yeah.
It actually messes with the proofreading system, the core error correction process.
That's exactly what the research suggests.
Yeah.
The constant hormonal overload, especially high cortisol, interferes with the complex cellular machinery that checks and corrects genetic damage.
That's huge.
It is. If your DNA repair is sluggish or compromised, the chances increase that errors, potentially those first oncogenic mutations, will stick around, get copied, and proliferate. It's a direct pathway linking a sustained mental state to deep, deep cellular vulnerability. And now, if we zoom out again, we can see how these internal biological changes start to show up externally, how they affect your life, your choices, even how you respond to medical help. This really hits the so what factor.
Right, because the stress isn't just working silently inside. It actually pushes us towards behaviors that make everything worse, doesn't it? Compounding the damage.
It's like compounding interest, but for health risks, a total disaster. Chronic stress is strongly, strongly linked to increased risk behaviors. We've all felt it, right? When you're under immense pressure long term, healthy habits are often the first casualty.
Yeah, the gym goes out the window, takeout menus come in.
Exactly. The sources detail those classic connections, things like an increase in smoking or vaping. You're introducing toxins that demand more work from those already strained DNA repair systems.
Okay, makes sense.
Then there's the tendency towards chronic overeating. Often the comfort foods, high sugar, high fat processed stuff that directly promotes inflammation, the very thing we said fuels tumor growth.
Right, feeding that internal fire.
And increased alcohol consumption. Alcohol puts a unique toxic load on the body, especially the liver and digestive system, at a time when the immune and repair systems are already underperforming.
So it becomes this vicious cycle. The stress damages your internal defenses and repair crews, and at the same time, it makes you more likely to do things that cause more damage, requiring more repair.
Perfectly put. And this isn't just theoretical, it has tangible clinical consequences. When people face health issues, studies show those under high chronic stress often experience things like slowed healing after surgery or injury.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense.
And critically, chronic stress can also reduce the effectiveness of cancer treatments themselves.
Why would something like chemotherapy work less well?
It can be complex, but elevated stress hormones might interfere with the pathways that normally tell cancer cells to die, or they might impair blood flow, making it physically harder for the chemo drugs to reach all parts of the tumor effectively.
So for someone going through treatment, managing stress isn't just about feeling better emotionally.
Not at all. It's about optimizing the physical environment inside your body to give the treatment the best possible chance to work. The mind state directly impacts the physical outcome.
That's incredibly powerful and also potentially overwhelming. It's easy to hear all this and think, oh no, my stress is making me sick. But the research doesn't just leave us there, does it? It offers tangible actions, right? What's the good news here?
The good news is genuinely tremendous. We absolutely have agency here. We can influence the stress response loop. The primary finding is crystal clear. Actively managing stress can significantly lower cancer risk and definitely boosts overall health. We are not just passive victims.
We can take back control of that internal environment.
Yes, we can actively work to counter those damaging hormonal surges and bolster our natural defenses.
So lifestyle management really is preventative medicine in this context. What are the practical steps? What does the research recommend we actually do?
Okay, the sources highlight 5 key management techniques. A toolkit, really, addressing both body and mind. First up, maybe the most accessible, daily exercise.
Even moderate stuff. A walk.
Absolutely. Even moderate movement is a potent way to metabolize stress hormones like cortisol. You essentially help flush them out of your system physically. It's like hormonal housekeeping.
Hormonal housekeeping, I like that. Okay, what's next?
Second, consciously using techniques like deep breathing or meditation. These aren't just woo-woo. They are proven methods to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. They actively interrupt the fight or flight response, manually lowering adrenaline and cortisol.
And you can do those anywhere, pretty much. A quick reset button.
Exactly. Third, prioritizing quality sleep. This is completely non-negotiable. Sleep isn't just downtime, it's critical active maintenance time, that crucial DNA repair we discussed. A lot of the heavy lifting happens during deep sleep.
So skimping on sleep is like skipping the nightly repair crew shift for your cells.
That's a perfect way to think about it. You absolutely need adequate restorative sleep for that error correction system to function properly.
Okay, and diet must play a role too.
Of course. Fourth is focusing on healthy eating, specifically whole foods that help fight inflammation. You want to dampen down that low-grade internal fire, not fuel it. Think lots of plants, healthy fats, less processed stuff.
Starve the fire. Makes sense. What's the fifth one?
Finally, and maybe underrated, talking to someone you trust. Social connection, real support, it's a fundamental psychological buffer against stress. Feeling connected, heard, supported. It directly reduces the intensity and duration of the chronic stress response. That hormonal flood doesn't last as long.
That is a fantastic, actionable list. Exercise, breathing, sleep, nutrition, connection. It shifts the conversation from feeling doomed by biology to feeling empowered by daily choices. It's about actively protecting our internal systems.
Precisely. If we understand chronic stress as something that weakens defenses, accelerates unwanted growth, and hinders healing, then managing that stress becomes a core part of preventative health. It's not optional, really.
Absolutely. So let's quickly recap the core lesson from this deep dive. Stress, especially chronic stress, doesn't seem to start the fire, doesn't initiate cancer,
Right.
but it acts like a major accelerant.
Right. It compromises the immune system, promotes that pro-growth inflammation, speeds up existing issues, and messes with healing, partly by disrupting key hormones and, crucially, impairing our vital DNA repair mechanisms.
Which leads to that final thought from the source material, doesn't it?
It does. It raises this really important question. If early action and achieving some emotional balance are such powerful tools in prevention, when we consciously prioritize taking care of our minds through things like exercise, good sleep, genuine connection, are we actually engaging in one of the most potent forms of physical self-defense available to us?
Taking care of the mind is physical self-defense. That's definitely something to mull over.